This is Mandatory Listening. I'm your host, Kent Mann. Each week, we sit down over a cup of coffee and discuss interesting topics in the world of the customer experience. Welcome back to Mandatory Listening. This is Kent Mann. I'm joined today by a host of Man Group folks today. I've got Dan Mann across the table from me sipping a whiskey right now.
Bourbon, please.
Bourbon, sorry. Yeah, no. It's like rectangles and squares. Not all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles are squares.
It's just exactly like that.
Yeah. So, and right across the way from me is our good friend Logan Presley, also with the Man Group. Hank Mann to my right. And we're all enjoying a couple drinks here at Happy Hour in the Man Group.
Where was the applause, fellas? You're here for one reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what we want. So this is different. Normally, if you were listening to the intro, if you didn't skip it, we normally talk over coffee, but today we're talking over a depressant, alcohol. We're not getting more energy after this.
It's late in the day, so I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
It's bourbon time.
I'm currently sipping on an Old Fitzgerald 11 year with the green label.
Ooh, what'd you pour me?
I got you the Old Fitzgerald 9 year with the black label.
Quite tasty.
Yeah.
Love both.
What do you have over there, Logan?
I have the 1792 full.
1792 full proof. That one's delicious. And Hank's sipping a bourbon cream?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. It looks a little funky. Looks like a White Russian, except it's bourbon flavored.
I just picked that up from where I was in Virginia Beach. The Cavalier Hotel has a phenomenal distillery called Tarnished Truth. We'll talk about that later, but that's a heck of a drink, and so is my old Fitz. Cheers, fellas.
Yeah, cheers.
Happy hour. Yeah.
Of course. Cheers to you drinking at home if you guys are happy hour, or if you're listening to this on your morning commute, enjoy your coffee.
I'll expect that this podcast will get more and more interesting as we go on, or maybe less and less coherent.
Yeah, either one, either or. So we're not talking just about bourbon today. We are talking about inventory planning. That's a big one. That's a lot of syllables.
And just as much work.
Yeah.
But it comes as a result of a question that we got from the podcast.
Yeah. So the end of the podcast club has been going for end of season 1, I think. We've started doing end of podcast club.
Yeah, sometime around mid-November.
Yeah. And so we ask for any feedback, any questions, anyone who needs any help with anything. And so on our first compensation podcast, which was just me and Dan, we got a question, or more of a comment, actually, that led to an interesting discussion. And it was, I'll just kind of read, not right off the fly, but independent bike dealers can be creative and compensating in their pay to great and motivated employees. It seems distributors treat their retailers in a way just like hourly wage. Do you think distributors can ever be creative in the same way to amazing retailers? Thanks again for insightful help in our industry. How does that land with you at first?
Well, this comes from, is it Absolute Bikes? Absolute Bikes?
It was Absolute Bikes, yep.
Yeah, awesome. We appreciate the question, and it's great the interaction we're getting. This writer, this question is comparing treating employees as hourly employees is a low-level way of treating employees.
Yeah.
And he contrasts that with manufacturers who try to treat their retailers with the same level of sort of dismissive or low-level engagement.
And I think it comes from a healthy place, like low risk, low reward. It's the safe option. Like I can pay them, I can keep my, if I keep their pay low, or if I keep their stock in this certain layout, which is most conducive to the manufacturer's growth, then I'm lowering my risk of having, returned items, returned stock, and then my retailers are mad at me. And the connection there is good, that commission can be a little harder. If you were talking about compensation, commission can be harder to implement and maybe a difficult conversation around some of your employees, but it's a highly active, highly intuitive, and eventually just more dynamic way of working that, it takes a little bit more effort, but the reward vastly outweighs any risk associated with it.
That's
if
insightful.
You do it right.
Yeah, insightful and right on the money. And here's really the thing. If you bring hourly employees onto the sales floor, underpay them, manage them, micromanage them, and they're on the front line of your customer experience, your customer experience is going to suffer as a result.
Definitely.
If you put achievement-minded people who are incentivized, who are in a win-win relationship, they're engaged, they're bringing out a great experience with your customers. So that equation that you have, that relationship you have with your staff, directly relates to the relationship you have with your customers.
Yep, definitely.
Now, so were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that again. Say exactly what you just said, except the relationship between retailers and manufacturers.
And that's exactly where I'm headed. So especially this is especially true in specialty retail. And let's just this writer comes from the bike industry. Let's talk about the bike industry, for example. When the engagement from the brand to the consumer is dependent upon a great retail experience, the middleman, which is really, in my view, not the middleman at all, is the front line.
Yep.
I mean, this is the front line for cycling, this is the front line for cyclists, and it's the front line for the brand. That relationship between the brand and the consumer is directly related to the quality of retail. And so it is incumbent upon retailers to create this win-win relationship by being great retailers. Mm-hmm. So a brand has no recourse or any other option except to control that equation if they're not good retail.
Yep.
If retailers are not doing a great job at retailing, then the brand has no choice but to direct the effort. That's unfortunate, but that's what happens. And so what a retailer must do, a retailer must come to the table with a quality inventory plan. The retailer has to have thought through their inventory cycle. They have to have decided about their consumer marketplace, about what kind of product is right for them, when they need it, and at what price and in what quantities. And if that retailer can come to the manufacturer with that level of inventory planning and inventory strategy, most manufacturers are going to be thrilled with that conversation and will engage them in a win-win. Yep. So it must come from quality retailing with the right strategy and assortment planning and inventory planning for the retailer to get that kind of relationship from a manufacturer.
Yeah, which goes right back to setting up for your year. You know, most people will start by going to one of the first expos of the year to buy product.
Trade show.
Trade show. If you go to the trade show, and we talk to some of our closest clients, they're no BS when they're going to these expos. No BS. Like, they have everything written down. They go from booth to booth to booth to booth. No unnecessary stops because they've thought about this months ago. They've already decided what inventory they're going to have months ago because they have a team revolved around it. It's not just tell me how much of this I need to buy. How much do you have available? I think this is going to be a hot product. We're going to sell out of it. And also, these retailers, these ones who are doing it right, have a strategy for if something is oversold. They have a discounting strategy, not just we have to clear everything out because we got to make room. That's part of it, but also we've thought about worst case scenario.
Well, this is really simple. All the retailer has to do is figure out exactly what their customers are going to want 6 months from now in exactly the right quantities, exactly the right sizes, exactly the right price, and make sure it's there exactly at the right time. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Nothing to it.
It's easy. Come on.
It's incredibly complex, and that's why the retailer has to be good at this.
Yeah. And not defensive or hopeful, but I'm being very deliberate with what I'm ordering because I've done the research.
I've got the historical data of what we did last year. I've anticipated my expectations for the coming year. I've got to create a marketing plan that supports that.
Yeah.
And then I order in those quantities and get that in at the right time.
Yep.
A manufacturer who has to do that for the retailer is going to have to give strong direction, and that's the unbalanced relationship that sometimes we see. So I don't blame manufacturing for this. You know, they've got product to get into the marketplace. They want to get in front of their customers, but they're really counting on and need great retailing so that part of the work is done for them.
Yeah, and any information that the manufacturers have is never going to be as useful as the information that comes right out of the store, the POS system. You know that you have your data. If you have your POS system and you're looking at it, that is so much more useful past information than something that the manufacturers predict, which is nationwide or whatever.
That's exactly right.
It's way more accurate. It's pinpointed. It's like having a corporate head tell you what your things are for a local branch. It's just not as relevant information.
Well, and each part of the world is different. What they're buying in Seattle is different than what they're buying in Miami. What they're buying in Portland, Maine is different than what they're buying in San Diego and across the board. So that's why the retailer's got to be good. The retailer's got to be have their finger on the pulse of this. The retailer has got to be well planned, and the retailer's got to have the specific data from the most previous selling season.
Yeah.
So that's the win-win relationship that helps the manufacturer. software.
Yeah, and it takes a team of buyers and an owner, or at least whoever's got their hands in the pot there. It takes some courage, not courage in the traditional sense, but it takes you got to be willing to take risks. And you have to have a team that is willing to accept those risks and see why the risks are being taken. Not that, why did the buyer in the back order this crap? I can't sell this crap. I don't like it. It's a communication between the buyer in the back room and the sales floor that we're on the same team here. And when this stuff comes in, these are the selling points.
Yeah, you said risk, and I would just add calculated risk.
Yeah.
Because the team we're talking about here, certainly the owner, the buyer, the manager, the GMM, depending on the size of your company, but the sales associate who's listening to this customer day in and day out. Hey, let's listen to the customer. What's our customer telling us?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other partner in this is the sales rep and the folks that are in between the manufacturer and the retailer, that are on the road, that are engaging with these retailers, that understand what's happening in the marketplace. So all of these come together to make the best guess we can, or at least the most calculated risk or the calculated choice for the upcoming season. We can't predict the future, but we do the best we can at calculating what we expect or anticipate to happen and what risks we're willing to take.
Yeah, and one of those useful skills, I think, in one of my marketing classes in college, you learn about the proven winners, the experiments, the tests, yeah. And so you have to be willing to see which categories you can make a certain margin here with the black shorts and the standard racing bib with your proprietary logo on it or your local brand logo. But let's take a chance over here. Oh, that didn't work so well. So, I know you talk about it a lot as mid-season adjustments. Yeah. So it's not like we bought it 6 months ago and we're going to see how it is for the fiscal year. It's like, no, we're always making changes because that assortment on the wall is taking up space. And if that's not making money for you, it's a waste of dollars.
Exactly right.
So it's constant update. The people on the floor are giving feedback. The people in the back are like, all right, I need some new orders. I need something going on here. Give me some feedback.
So in the most simple, basic terms, you look at this as again, like always, it's a process. And the process starts and ends with the company strategy. What is it we intend to do? What's our company strategy? Secondly, what's our company financial plan? What are our financial needs? And when do we need money?
Yeah.
We got to make our payments in October. So we got to have anticipation of revenue in October. What do we anticipate? What do we expect for June through each of the quarters and each of the months of the year? So that's our financial plan. Then we've got to create the category plan. Mm-hmm. So this writer is talking about bikes. So what's our plan for full suspension mountain bikes? What's our plan for $5,000 and up road bikes? What's our plan for kids bikes across the board?
Yep.
That's a category plan. Then we build our assortment plan. What bikes am I going to buy? What bib shorts or helmets am I going to bring into the store to sell and assort? That's the assortment plan. Then, and only then, 5 steps in, then we place orders.
Yep.
If you're going to the market and placing orders without those steps being done, then you're just hoping to do well. And what's going to happen is your manufacturer, your brand, may not partner with you because you've not well thought this out, and they're going to be directing you as to what you're going to order and what you're going to buy. So this requires them that retailers show up to the trade show, show up to the market with a carefully researched plan, with calculated risks they're willing to take. And if you can engage at that level, you're a retailer with a plan. I can tell you, your brand is going to partner with you, find that win-win, and the relationship's going to be more satisfying for both.
Absolutely. And I think the worst case scenario is you haven't done your research. Maybe the manufacturer begins getting into your floor space and decides where your stuff's going to go. And then things don't work out. Predictions don't work like they, because predictions never exactly hit where you want them to. And so now you've got 8-year-old inventory. If it's hard goods, there's nothing worse than having an 8-year-old hard good because they come out with new models every single year. And if you're sitting on those, you'll not get any sort of margin on it.
Well, in this day and age, an 18-month-old inventory is dated, old, and dusty. So
exactly.
8 years is dead in the water. 18 months old is starting to feel a little tired.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a sense of urgency to this that your manufacturer has to focus on. Manufacturing cycle is years in the making, and those commitments at the manufacturing level are extreme, big dollars.
Yep.
So they've got to move that product through. They have no choice.
Yep.
That's why in the spinning wheels of commerce, the manufacturing world's spinning sort of slowly. the retail world spending much faster.
Yeah.
And so it's incumbent upon retailers to be good at this, nimble at this, and well prepared.
Which is part of the reason why we just elevate retail, even at the lowest level sales floor associate, to such a high degree, because it is such a high energy career. And if you're not willing to step into the fire at a retail job, you may need to rethink your choice, because so many people think it's a low energy, low commitment job. But if you want to do it right and you want to make money at it, which is still possible, believe it or not, you have to be on your toes.
Absolutely, and no question about it, retail is still one of the top industry choices today, and those that are good at it at the front line are invaluable to the brand.
Absolutely.
Invaluable to the manufacturing choice, and certainly retail champions.
Definitely. So we've hit inventory planning. We get a brief overview. This goes along with visual merchandising. This goes along with
sales training.
This is core to any strategic plan you have at the beginning of every year. And if you're not holding, we talk about it in this podcast a lot. If you're not holding some sort of strategic planning meeting at the beginning of every year, which would include a inventory planning cycle, you've got an opportunity for growth.
And without it, your manufacturing partners are going to be more directive of you, which you're not going to like. The only response for a win-win is show up at the table prepared,
Definitely,
with a plan.
Yep.
I don't know about you, Kent, but it seems like the longer we've gone, the smarter I sound. Is it anything to do with this bourbon?
I definitely sound very smart right now.
You look smart.
Yeah, thank you. With the bourbon in my hand, I just need a leather-bound book.
How about the audience over here? Do we look smart?
If we had a video, you'd see a fireplace in the background. Maybe I've got a cozy chair,
mini leather-bound volumes.
It's pleather. It's way better. All right, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for listening. We talked a little bit about inventory planning and mostly about bourbon. As always, if you have any questions, this one did stem from a question, so we do read those. Really appreciate the feedback. If you have any more questions about inventory planning, this is a gigantic subject and takes a lot of hands-on learning, a lot of experience, and it takes years to master. So don't think you're going to listen to a podcast one day and become experts at it. You got to just jump in and start making it a priority. So like I said, feel free to reach out and give us your feedback or any questions you may have. We'd be happy to answer. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Take care.
That's it for this episode. If you like what you hear, subscribe and leave a review on our iTunes channel. We'll see you next week.